Hi, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Connie. How's everybody doing today? I'm Connie Fuksa, and I come to you with more than 30 years worth of experience in the real estate, title, closing industry. And I like to come to you a couple times a week and talk to you about those things, because when you buy or sell a piece of property, there's just so many moving parts and so many confusion pieces that I like to talk about all of the questions that I have received and experienced over that period of time. So I used to own a title company, and I did that for more than 30 years. And recently I sold that, and now my passion is to share information with you. I really want to change the way people understand the process of buying and selling a home and doing a closing and what goes into all of those parts, and to try to help you and be more empowered when you have questions about the process, even after the process is over, so you understand exactly what you're getting into. So today I wanted to talk to you specifically about owning the land that you purchased, not just the house. And this may sound a little wacky, especially if you live in an area that's rural. A lot of times you may not experience this. But there is a couple of different types of ownership when it comes to the land that your house sits on, or that your mobile home sits on, or that your double wide trailer sits on. Whatever your home is, there may be different ways to look at and understand the ground that your house actually sits on. So I wanted to talk about this for a minute because it's a little bit confusing. If you're looking for a new piece of property, you're looking for a new home, and you happen to see in the description something about deeded land or ground rent or fee simple or leasehold in ownership interest, I was going to say. Sometimes I get a little tongue-tied. I apologize. So those are all little triggers that talk about the ownership of the ground that your house sits on. So I wanted to talk about that for a minute because, like I said, in rural areas, typically it's not a question, but there may be areas, let's say that you want to buy a mobile home or a modular home that is in a neighborhood that has all other modular homes there. A lot of times in those areas, more than likely, all of the ground that is there is leased to the person who has their modular home there. So when you drive in there and you think, wow, you know, they own this little piece and this person owns this little piece, including the house, the concept of, you know, if you owned a house that isn't in that kind of a scenario, you think, well, I'm buying the land, I'm buying the house, I'm buying everything on the land, and that's not always true. So in that scenario, you're actually renting. It's a leasehold interest in the ground. You own the building that sits on top of the ground, but you do not own the ground that it sits on. You're actually leasing that property. So in certain areas, in one of the areas, neighborhoods where I'm from, there is a community that has this same kind of thing. It actually has regular houses, and it looks like any other neighborhood, and they have community things that go on there, but the ground that the house sits on is leasehold ground. And so the way the closing's done a little bit different, the way the mortgage is done is a little bit different, and you have the right to use that property as long as you pay the rent. But if not, then they can place a lien against you, and you don't physically own the land. So sometimes you have to get approval for what you can do outside of the house on the land. And you have to have approval to actually have your home located on that land. So that's a couple of different scenarios. Then we'll talk about other scenarios in major cities. Sometimes there's this common concept called ground rent. It's a similar kind of thing. You don't own the land that your house sits on, and you actually pay rent to someone. Now, a lot of those are old school kind of ownership, and so there isn't that much as, it's not as common as it used to be to have a major city where they have usually row houses, townhouses, those kinds of things where there is ground rent. That's where you would typically see it. But there still is some that are selling out to the owners of the homes, but they've been owned, the land has been owned by others for years and years and years. And when you own that house, you actually pay rent to someone. And it's maybe a nominal rent. Maybe it's a large rent. It depends. If you're looking in an area where the modular home kind of concept is, you may be paying for not only in your rent, but you know they have the underground sewer lines and water lines and those types of things. So that may be part of what that rent includes. In other areas, like in major cities, maybe that isn't included in that. Maybe that's a separate cost that goes to the county, and that you're only paying the rent to the person who owns that piece of land. It's more of a unusual concept, and it's more usual to actually own the property that your house sits on in what we call fee simple. Leasehold is when you're leasing the ground. Fee simple is when you're purchasing the ground and the house. The other place you may see leasehold is if you buy a piece of property that's a commercial piece. Let's say it's in a commercial industrial park maybe, and the land is owned by someone else, and the warehouse or the building that you're purchasing may be that you're purchasing that property but not the land underneath, and so you're actually have a leasehold interest in the land and an ownership interest in the house. So sounds a little confusing, but something to understand maybe if you're looking at a new home, or maybe you live or you just bought something and you're not familiar with that, and maybe you bought into it and it wasn't explained to you really well. So there is these types of things out there where you don't physically own the land that your house is located on, but you may pay rent for it, but you do have to pay that rent because it can become a lien against your property, and then someone can take you to court and cause some problems with your ownership. So maybe I offered you some information and helped you understand a little bit different concept today. Hopefully I did, or maybe spurred another question. I love it when you guys ask me questions. So please reach out. Let me know if there's something I need to talk about that you'd like some more information on. I'll bring in some other people. That's what we're going to start doing now in 2019 is, as we're doing videos, I want to start bringing in other experts that are professionals in the field in other areas that can answer some of these other questions too. So if you have some of those questions, let me know. Please feel free to hit that share button below, because then you could be eligible for this really cool Coffee with Connie mug. There are lots of them going out there, and there's not too many of them left. So I'd love it if you hit the share button. You can enjoy coffee with me when we do Coffee with Connie, and then you can also share all this great information with people that know you that I don't, because sharing is caring, of course. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for tuning in to Coffee with Connie. I'm Connie Fuchsia. I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.